49ers podcast from the Gridiron Show. And sorry, I should say, let me correct myself. The NFC West Champions San Francisco 49ers podcast from the Gridiron Show. I'm Will Gavin, alongside me, Nicholas McGee, bringing you the very best 49ers coverage to the UK fan base. Nicholas, I mean, this is probably the longest recording we'll ever do from post-game to a podcast itself. Are you still floating somehow Tuesday, Wednesday off the back of Thursday night football?
100% Will. The joy of winning the division in Seattle for the second time in 4 seasons has not yet subsided, and the comfort you can enjoy around this wonderful time of year in knowing your team is in the playoffs with the title in the bag, with a home game, and with everything to play for, nothing to lose, as still has me on cloud 9.
Yeah, the nature of the win as well was, as much as they had the comeback touchdown and there was the terrible pick that was called off for just the awful rushing the passer call on Bosa, which we could have seen them. We could have been 28-3 up at one point and should have probably buried this game long before we did. The slightly nature of slowing down the second half and allowing the Seahawks somewhat back into it, a little moment of worry to it, but honestly, all round, very, very pleased to go on the road and get a victory. And I have to say, to get a victory in a fashion that, whilst it was Brock Purdy's probably least impressive overall game top to bottom for the 49ers, if you're going to look at every single throw, to do it in the environment he did it in, to run the playbook as well as he did, to have some really good on-the-fly calls as well. I thought the second touchdown, he made a decision to go to a read, which wasn't the obvious read, and it ended up scoring the deep touchdown. I still thought that the maturity and all those brilliant things we've said about him in previous weeks were on display yet again.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. He had the amazing start to the game, went 10 for 10, 11 for 11, whatever it was. I think it was 11 for 11, and then went really spotty for about the second quarter, start the second half, had the near pick six, Quandre Diggs, which was crucially called back. Oh, sorry, not called back, he dropped it, my apologies. And then, but there was still all the things you need to see on the road in terms of the poise, in terms of the pocket movements improved again. If you watch the tape back, he's making a lot of sort of movements in the pocket to negate kind of pressure that's coming in his direction by himself more time, and doing things that had gone wrong for the Niners in previous weeks. Remember, way back in week 3, the Garoppolo throwing from his own end zone and taking the intentional safety by not knowing where the line is. In this game, you saw Purdy throwing from his own end zone, and you thought this could be a disaster, and he just delivers a poised strike on the slant route to Jawan Jennings, and he made the throws when he had to. And then this defense, which I don't want to use hyperbole, I don't want to disrespect Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Justin Smith, but I think this is the best 49er defense I've ever seen since I started following them way back in 2005. This defense can win any game for them, and he did what he had to do, and it was still very impressive from Purdy.
Yeah, I wasn't many years before you on that, Nicholas. I was around 2002, and I absolutely agree. We've had some unreal defenses during the Jim Harbaugh era, some very, very good front sevens in particular. I think this linebacking core is comparable to Bowman Willis, and I'm very much in the Patrick Willis should be going to the Hall of Fame camp, certainly, but Navarro Bowman alongside him was phenomenal. Justin Smith older. Justin Smith is another one who I think should be going to the Hall of Fame, and obviously I'm going to be saying this as a 49ers fan more so than anyone else, but there was no one else who played the 3-4 defensive end role as well as he did over that 10 or 12 year stretch, and really set the tone for what somebody like JJ Watt could come into the league and do. And I think you forget what he did because JJ Watt came in and did something so spectacular, was one of the best defensive players we've ever seen, that it kind of negates that we had one of the best to do it prior to him in the league just as he was coming in. But I'm with you. I think this defense is the best I've seen from the San Francisco 49ers in that 20-year stretch. And on Brock Purdy, I think what really stood out to me from the play calling, and okay, we had some fun. We had the touchdown with the fake left, fake right, and then hitting his man down the middle. We had some lovely plays to the outside, and it's these things that really strike me with Brock Purdy. They're running a lot more boot. And I think that's very clear that they're much more comfortable with him on the move than they are with Garoppolo. And something that's always put me on, something with Garoppolo that's always made me nervous, and I think I only saw it maybe once or twice from Brock Purdy on Thursday, his feet are just so quiet in the pocket. And he just knows where the pressure's coming from, knows when he needs to get the throw out, works his way through the reads. Garoppolo, anytime I see them bringing an extra man or anytime the pressure looks like it's going to get to him, it's like immediate panic stations. And I just don't see that from Brock Purdy. And again, I feel like I'm going to keep qualifying this. We could be in the Super Bowl and I'll keep qualifying this. Like, I know it's a small sample size and I know that, he's yet to play a real top-tier defense, but the young man has blown me away over these last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's the second reaction plays, as you call them, where the pressure comes, he's able to spin out of it, and then he's still very calm when he's on the move. And we saw, of course, the key third down at the end of the game where he knows exactly where to slide and so he gets the first down. And like you say, with the progressions, it's the quiet feet, and the feet are in time with where his eyes are going, and that stood out on the touchdown to Kittle in particular. I think it was the fourth read, and he gets there, and it's all perfectly in time, and it's a perfectly accurate throw. And a lot of these throws are schemed open, particularly obviously the first one and the late downfield shot to Tyler Kroft, where he kind of leaked out and he's wide open. But often those wide open throws, when you'd have a tight end or Kyle Juszczyk streaking wide open, the ones that Garoppolo would make harder for himself. He would put them behind the receiver or miss them completely, and Purdy is hitting them perfectly in stride where they need to be. And these are all good signs. And it's a small sample size, but he gets a chance now to have a bigger sample size where there's not as much pressure on. You're in the playoffs, and the only thing you can gain now is a second seed, realistically, depending on what the Jalen Hurts shoulder injury turns out to be. So you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. He's kind of got a free hit to get that sample size in now. Some encouraging stuff again.
I think that goes a long way for the young guys to be able to experience that hostile environment, close game where it's loud, people are injured, people have to step up, and for us to get that win, man, that's just a lot of good stuff to carry over later into the season.
Yeah, and looking forward, how important is that 2 seed for you guys, because you get 2 home playoff games?
Huge. Anytime you can play at home, that's going to be to your advantage, especially us on the West Coast, because typically on the West Coast you have to travel more than anybody. So for us to continue winning and move up the seed chart there is big for us.
Awesome, thank you, Mikhail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just tell me about the pump touchdown. I mean, that was a heck of a call.
Great call.
Yeah.
Hollywood is what we call it.
Do you?
And we have a little history of success with it. I think George ran it the first time in 19 in LA, and he ran another time, I think, in 20 or 21 for, I think, a touchdown. But it's something I've seen other teams run it. Kansas City has ran it. You fake one way, you fake the other way. George is going right up the middle. So it was a very well schemed and well timed call.
How did you come up with the name Hollywood?
That's a good question. I think just because you're just trying to distract people, look over here, look over there, when it's really happening right in the middle.
It seemed like the game plan, obviously, was you guys wanted to run the ball. That was perceived as their weakness, their run defense. So that was the game plan right out of the chute.
Yeah, we knew we needed to run the ball. We knew, Brock was banged up, and we weren't sure how much he was able to go. And like you said, we felt like that was something we could take advantage with them, was running the football. And I think we did a really good job of it. It wasn't always pretty, and sometimes you have those games where, it's 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, and then they pop. Kind of like that last play that Jordan had. And, at the end of the day, we got it done, and we'll do it any way possible.
That was a heck of a play, wasn't it?
It was, and it got us going. It got us going when we needed to get some points on the board and extend a lead, so our defense can just do what it does. And that's complementary football, and we did a lot of that today.
Just tell me, I know this is a step along the process, but you guys aren't looking at this as if you've accomplished anything that huge tonight, are you? You have other things that you want to do?
No, certainly we are. I mean, it's first and foremost, the goal is to get into the dance, and by winning your division, that's the way you do that. And everybody's goal, as soon as the season starts, the first goal is winning the division, and it's a huge deal. You don't get to do it often. We've been a part of a couple playoff runs here, and we've only done it one other time since I've been here. And we've had a damn good division. So it's a huge accomplishment for sure, especially to do it this early. But we got a lot still left to play for, and a lot still left to help ourselves out with.
And just tell me, it's been well talked about by this point, and there's still a lot to be proven. But a 22-year-old kid, last guy taken in the draft, isn't supposed to look this professional and accomplished this early in his career. The kid's got something special going there, doesn't he?
He absolutely does. He's a pro's pro. and he's done a great job ever since he's gotten here. And he played a lot of football in college, and there's a reason he was the one that they chose to stay in the building. And thank God he's here, because if not, I don't know what would happen. So he's done an unbelievable job. He's taken this opportunity by the horns, and he's running with it, and I'm so proud of him, and all of us are, and we're very thankful. We've had a good team and had a good run. We just got to keep it going.
Thanks.
Listen, you've won the division. Now you have a playoff spot. It takes a little bit of pressure off. A little bit, or is the work harder now?
No, you got to work hard, man, because every team gonna come in and give us their best shot. Everybody's saying San Fran this, San Fran that, and I can guarantee you, these coaches gonna get their players hyped. This is a playoff team, this and that and this and that. We need to come and win. But if I'm not mistaken, Washington, they in the race too, right? Vegas, they out of the playoffs? Vegas out of the playoffs? And who?
I don't think officially.
Officially? We got, 3 more games? 3 more games left? Arizona last game? Oh, okay. So Washington finna come in hot, and, that's going to be a big challenge.
Well, what do you think was the key to the victory tonight, though?
Brock Purdy. But we played great team ball, man. They made some plays, but we ended up making more. The defense, we gave up some points. We gave up a score in the second half. Yeah. But it is what it is, man. You got to give credit to those guys, too. They came out and played a great game, and Seattle always give us a tough game. We knew, the first time, I want to say they didn't even score on the first time on defense, but this time they came out, ready to play. But like I said, we made more plays than what they did, and we came home with the win.
You must be so excited how well Brock is doing, too.
Yes, man. Like, I seen it in practice, like how he carries himself, man. It's like the reps and like scout team, like he worked on timing. And that's something you don't often see. Like, you don't see a quarterback work on time and actually trying to get the ball out of his hand within those 3 seconds. And that's what he worked on. So when he got into the game and he did what he did, nobody was surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised because he practiced like he played, and that's something. That's one thing that I'm big on. Practice how you play. For you won't have any surprises. Hustle in practice, and you'll hustle in the game. Make plays in practice, you'll make plays in the game.
Navigating that noise, though, here can be different. What was your impression of, like?
It got me once. It was one play. He was right. Should have been like a zone call. I wouldn't say too much, but a check, and I didn't hear it. So it was like Lockett caught the ball to the left side and ran up the flat, and Demo made a hit on the sideline. So that was my play, but I couldn't hear it. So, but Seattle, they crowd always come out and get loud, and I guess that's the 12 and all that. But it's a great play. It's a great atmosphere to play in.
It seemed like there were more Niners fans here than there has been perhaps.
It did look like that, huh? That says a lot about our season, right?
Charvarius Mooney Ward made his way to the NFL as an undrafted free agent in 2018 out of Middle Tennessee State, before joining the 49ers for this 2022 season. Before making his way to the NFL, he wore a number 2 jersey in college as a fan of veteran cornerback Jason Verrett. He has a newly founded charity, Charvarius for Change, which has supported holiday food donations in his hometown of Macomb, Mississippi. Off the field, one of his great escapes is reading mystery, thriller, and suspense novels, with Colleen Hoover's Verity as one of his all-time favorites. Another favorite activity for Mooney is watching cartoons, and one of his go-tos is Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants.
I think the other thing that really stood out for me in this game is obviously we were looking for the weapons that they would use. Would, on a short week, McCaffrey feature as much as he ended up doing so? I was surprised to see him get 30 touches or looks with the ball, which was kind of stunning that it was that many, but he ended up delivering yet again. It was only late in the game that really JP Mason ends up coming in and making a bit of a difference. But also with Deebo Samuel out, who is going to step up into the role, who is going to be featuring in the offense, and his injury comes at just the same time that George Kittle finally, not just for the first time this season, not just for the first time since, say, week 7, but really for me the first time in the last couple of years, looks like a fully healthy George Kittle this week. He has the 2 long touchdown catches, 28 and 54 yards, wide open on both of them, 4 catches for 93 yards. And he is, for me, when healthy and on his day, the best tight end in the NFL, the best all-round football player when it comes to the position, because he excels at blocking, at getting to the second level and blocking, fits the system so perfectly, but also brilliant after the catch, so physical, strong at the catch point as well, runs routes brilliantly. And I totally understand, and I would have gone to absolute bat before probably last season when he clearly had that lower leg injury, that George Kittle was the best tight end in the NFL over Travis Kelce. It's very difficult to keep arguing that while Kelce keeps putting up the ridiculous numbers that he does, and the best ability, his availability and everything else. But if he can now stay healthy down this stretch, I think it's going to be a huge difference for the 49ers.
That's it, and you saw kind of last postseason as well, and obviously ended up losing the game, but he showed it when he counted against the Rams in the championship game with the touchdown. He might not be as good a route runner as Kelce. I think Kelce probably has him a little bit in that area of the game, but he still is able to get open and get open. And you saw what he can do after the catch, particularly on the second long touchdown, where he makes two excellent cuts on two defenders to just stroll into the end zone. When you're a big man that can move with kind of the athletic ease that he can in the open field, he can be such a weapon. And I think that's don't want Deebo Samuel to be injured, but that's going to be a kind of a blessing in disguise of having Deebo Samuel injured, that you get to develop Purdy with Kittle more often over these next few weeks instead of just using him as a blocker all the time. And I think the necessity of having to use him as a blocker has made people forget how good he is, and hopefully over the next few weeks we'll see more of Kittle doing what he does best in the receiving game.
Let me ask you about the way we look at the rest of the NFL and particularly the rest of the NFC right now, because we've got a really fascinating situation coming on Christmas Eve where the Eagles face the Cowboys, and Jalen Hurts is carrying that injury and is questionable right now as we record this on Tuesday evening to whether he'll be playing in that game or not. But the Eagles look at it and they say, look, they would essentially have to lose out to lose the 1 seed. They could maybe lose 2 of 3 and have the Vikings win out. But with the way the Vikings have played, even with that comeback against the Colts, I have serious doubts about that. And that kind of comes to my thing as well. I think for the Eagles, resting Jalen Hurts against the Cowboys makes sense to me. I totally understand that the Cowboys are in the same division as them. They're looking at playoff berth. They technically can still catch them. They want to put a hurt on their division rivals. But I just think with the lead that they've got, don't risk it. And then I start to look at the 49ers squad, and I start to look at the teams above us. We now know we've got the NFC West title. It's very, very unlikely that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or whoever out of the NFC South will be able to catch us. Not quite impossible, although I think it actually might now be impossible. Either way, 3rd seed is most likely. 2nd seed is still a possibility. You could still catch the Vikings. Do you start now to already start thinking about January when you're thinking about the carries for McCaffrey, when you're thinking about the targets for, Kittle or for Ayuk over going to say a Jawan Jennings or someone like that? Do you start to think to yourself about whether or not we should maybe be trying to keep the team healthy going through these last 3 games, even though you want to carry the momentum into the postseason?
I think a little bit. I don't think there's a danger of going too far with that, but I think the specific one that you outlined there is McCaffrey. I too was surprised at the level of run he got on Thursday night, and I think a lot of that is just how valuable he is, not in just what he does on the ground, but in how he opens things up for the passing game, how he's always a check down, how he can win one-on-one when he's split out wide, and then how he create space for other kind of tertiary receivers like Jennings and Ray McLeod, who had to step up a little bit with Deebo Samuel out there. So I think you have to now kind of be a little bit careful with how you use him in particular, and maybe give Mason some more run, and maybe you want to get Tyrion Davis-Price or David Coleman a bit more involved, just give him a few carries here and there, just to kind of keep McCaffrey fresh, because he, regardless of what seed you get, and it's probably most likely to be the 3rd seed, but he's going to be absolutely vital for this offense in the playoffs, and I imagine he'll still probably get 20 carries or so, but I think he definitely needs to be scaled back from what he had on Thursday. They need to kind of think specifically of him towards January, and how this guy is going to potentially be the difference between us going out early and going really, really deep into the postseason.
We'll talk about the Washington Commanders coming up shortly as we look forward to the Christmas Eve game, 9:05 kickoff. You'll be able to hear it myself live on TalkSport 2 this Saturday evening. We'll look forward to that as well. But it does strike me that as you look at the rest of the season, we probably were looking down the stretch going, right, home games, even the road games are against not very good teams. But actually, Washington, barring that loss to the Giants, coming in very good form. The Raiders have won 4 of their last 5 and have actually clawed their way back into very outsider playoff contention. So that may prove like a tough one on New Year's Day. The Cardinals, I maybe fear less. I'd love to just get 2 wins over the next 2 weeks and know that you can rest all of your starters in Week 18 against a very poor Cardinals team, knowing you probably already know your playoff seeding, where you're going to play and when and everything else. McCaffrey, I think you're absolutely right, is the one that maybe I just have some 49ers injury fears that still haunt me from being one of the worst injury luck teams outside of maybe the Los Angeles Chargers, Tennessee Titans last year, I can remember in recent seasons. Let's turn our attention to this weekend. Before we talk Washington, let's just take a little look at the rest of the NFC. That Cowboys-Eagles game, I already mentioned, Jalen Hurts is one that I would certainly consider resting for that game. But Dallas come into it off the back-to-back of some tough performances, very nearly losing to the Texans, if not for a last-minute 98-yard Dak Prescott 2-minute drill, and then losing to admittedly approving Jaguars team this week, but when having a 14-point lead in the second half, to lose that game in overtime. Starting to, with their losses in the secondary particularly, look just a little bit human, Nick.
Yeah, completely agree on that point. I've seen a lot of kind of the reaction to that game, particularly being focused on Dak Prescott, and for me that is focused in completely the wrong place. Between them, I thought Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence the better quarterback duels of this portion of the season. It was very impressive to watch from both of them in terms of some of the throws that they made. The Cowboys' defense, it created some turnovers, but it looks a lot more volatile now for me, and it's certainly a lot less reliable, and it just kept giving Jacksonville chances to get back into this game, and they eventually took them. So I think for all the chatter about Odell Beckham with the Cowboys and whether they need him and stuff, and so he would help if he was fully healthy, but I'm not sure that's the case. I think the focus for Dallas has to be on how do we get its defense right, because it looks like something that could really derail them in the postseason to me.
And clearly there's, I feel like we always don't have to say a huge amount of talent on that. We've already heard Micah Parsons giving it some of the gums ahead of this weekend, ahead of facing the Philadelphia Eagles, and telling them that they're a system team, that Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback, that it doesn't matter if it's Gardner Minshew they face this weekend, it's the system that wins them games. Getting that needle in there now. But with Leighton Van Der Esch hurt, with Dorrance Armstrong hurt, with already the 2 starting cornerbacks missing and them having to play 5th-round rookie Deron Bland, who admittedly had an interception this past weekend. But I look at the way that they're set up in that back end, not helping their front end, and the injuries that they've carried. And volatile is the right word. I think that they'll get turnovers. I think that they will pressure teams, but I think they'll give up points as well. And actually, regardless of, maybe Micah Parsons is right, but for the wrong reasons. Maybe this weekend Gardner Minshew could go into that situation and put up points on Dallas, because I think that'll end up being an absolute shootout, most likely.
Yeah, I think the Gardner Minshew factor is probably one of the more underrated reasons for resting Jalen Hurts this weekend, is that this guy's played well in the league before. We all remember Minshew mania at its height, and he stepped in before in backup duty and comported himself relatively well. And the Eagles still have plenty of playmakers in Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert's just been activated from IR today. So they've still got plenty of playmakers, a very good offensive line, as we all know, kind of overseen by Jeff Stoutland, who has become the kind of league offensive line czar with what he's been able to do there in Philadelphia. So there's no reason why they shouldn't necessarily put up points against this Dallas defense with the injuries that they have. And what a tribute to Mike Leach it would be if Gardner Minshew, one of his favorite proteges, could have a big game this weekend.
Love that. Absolutely love that. What did you make of the comeback for the Minnesota Vikings? Biggest comeback in NFL history from a hole they probably shouldn't have been in. And yet at the same time, with some of the officiating that we saw this past weekend, probably a game they should have won in regulation anyway.
Yeah, I was on the laptop for this game, not on the big screen. I was relegated to the laptop because my daughter is very into Strictly Come Dancing this year at the age of 4. So I was playing Strictly Come Dancing final. She can have the big screen and don't really care too much about this game. Jeff Saturday doesn't interest me that much. And then delighted with the prospect of a blowout. I thought Niners end of the weekend at the second seed, but then just an absolute meltdown and then complete indictment of the Colts and what they've done this season, and kind of just shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly. Nothing encapsulates that more than the greatest comeback in NFL history. Just malpractice on the Colts' part. You can't not credit the Vikings, but it's just. It's I think I tweet this out the time. It's the weirdest thing that the Vikings have just pulled off the greatest comeback in NFL history, and nobody thinks any better of them for it. And I say that I don't either. And there was some amazing plays in that game, particularly from Dalvin Cook, and you can't not credit them for it. But at the same time, does anybody think they're any more of a threat in the NFC? Because I certainly don't.
No, I'm with you. And actually, if the Colts kick a field goal when they should have done, with not much time remaining in the fourth quarter, they probably would have won that game of football. Instead, they give up the game-time touchdown and end up going and losing it right at the death of overtime. The other teams in the NFC worth talking about. I mean, Giants, Commanders, Sunday night. Again, both teams playing incredibly tough. We'll talk Commanders coming up shortly. But again, neither of them terrify me going into the playoffs. The Detroit Lions, however, on this 6-1 skid over the last 7 games. I know that the New York Jets played them tight this weekend. I know the Jets had their late comeback opportunities. But the thing that really strikes me about the Lions in recent weeks is, as much as it's been a team that's talked about as relying on their offense and the defense not helping them out a huge amount, they've stopped the run brilliantly in the last few weeks. They've really slowed down that area of the game, and maybe they haven't faced a 49ers type run game, but that's a team that you almost don't want to face the team who are coming in hot off the really great second half of the season with the no one believes in us mentality.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. That they are the team that they're the berserker in the playoffs. I think most of the top seed would probably still have enough to knock them off. They will be a lot more uneasy than anybody would like it to be, because they've got that fearlessness about them as well on offense. You see Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson just draw these plays on fourth down successive week now with the Penei Sewell shot to win the game against the Vikings, and then the throw to Brock Wright against the Jets. Like you say, the run defense has definitely improved. The Jets have had injuries there, so it's an interesting one to kind of pass. Their run game has severely suffered since Breece Hall went down. So it'll be really interesting to see down the stretch. A, if the Lions can get in, but B, I think they still have the Packers to face. I think that might be week 18, and they've obviously got that good running game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, which we saw on Monday night against the Rams. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with a run game that's probably more equipped to take advantage of their defense. But certainly the berserker in the playoffs, and I'll be very happy as a potential second or third seed if it was the Giants and Commanders, or maybe even the Giants and the Seahawks, or Giants and the Packers. I just wouldn't want Dan Campbell's fearless Lions to get in there. Would be somebody you don't want to see in the first weekend second weekend of January.
All right, coming up, we'll be hearing our man Larry Kruger in the Bay in Santa Clara. Will have been in the Niners locker room ahead of this weekend's matchup. As we said, we'll hear it on TalkSport 2. We'll have plenty of reaction here on Tales from the Bay as well. Right now, San Francisco opening up as 7-point favourites for this home tilt. The over-under set at 39.5 points. And as I mentioned, Washington, I look at the second half of the season for them, maybe even just not the second half, but going back to prior to that Giants performance this past weekend, they are a team who quietly is maybe the wrong word for anything that Washington do, because there's so much focus, obviously, on all the off-the-field stuff. But they lose 4 of their opening 5 games. They're right on the outside looking in. And since then, not only have they won 6 out of 8 and 6 out of 9, with the tie as well. But there's big wins in there over the likes of the Eagles, over the likes of the Packers. That Colts victory where they weren't very impressive but came from behind. The loss was incredibly tight against the Vikings. Like, it's a team who I just feel like are pretty well coached and play everyone very, very tough.
Yeah, they're a really interesting team in that they do a lot of the things well that the winning teams do well. They play good defense even without Chase Young, and I'm not sure he's ever coming back at this stage. It's just looking like you might as well call 2022 a write-off for him. They did talk about this whole week building up to the last game that he was going to be active, and then I turn on the game and I see him on the sideline in civvies. What's going on? Yeah, he's just stood on the sideline with a hoodie on and just looking largely disinterested. And it's just, it's a very weird situation for, I believe, an ACL tear. It's kind of similar to the David Bakhtiari thing with Green Bay, whereas he's coming back this week, and it just never seems to happen. But they've certainly coped without him very well. They run the ball extremely well. I think Brian Robinson's been very impressive, and they've got a good tandem there with him and Antonio Gibson. And yet, it's still kind of tough to see them. Like you can see the Lions causing that kind of season. I'm not sure if the Commanders could, simply because I think I use that word again, volatility at quarterback. Brock Purdy was compared to a Taylor Heineke when he first came into the team, but I think actually Brock Purdy might be more reliable than Taylor Heineke. Maybe I'll go to eat those words, but Mark Bullock, who does some very good Commanders film breakdown from the UK right over here, put it best. He said Taylor Heineke makes the hard stuff look easy and the easy stuff look really hard, which is just kind of that unpredictable wild card at quarterback. And I'm not sure if that's the ideal quarterback you want against the Niners. Maybe it is if you can go off script and do some things, but this is a team that's going to take the easy stuff away anyway. So if you make the easy stuff look really hard against the Niners, that kind of looks like a recipe for disaster for me. So yeah, they still come down to the quarterback for me. They've got all the weapons they need. They've got McLaurin is amazing. Jahan Dotson's coming on great on the other wide receiver position. They can run the ball. They can play good defense. It's just they're a team that looks again much similar to the Colts, maybe a better version of the Colts that still just can't get it right at the quarterback position with this revolving door. Once they do, if they ever do, eventually, I think there'll be a threat kind of in the coming years of the NFC, but it might just fall short this year for me.
I think the situation, and this could be, of course, a playoff preview when we look at the current seeding situation. This very much could be a game that we see again coming the third weekend of January. For me, that Washington team, it's all about the good work that they do in the trenches. You mentioned it already. They run the ball well, but also they do a good job of slowing other teams down. And while the 49ers will always hope to pound the ball and move it on the ground, and we've seen a lot of game plans this year from Kyle Shanahan where they've been willing to throw it 20, 25, 30 times in the first half, try and build a lead, and then run the ball in the second. And I do think that more explosive passing game from San Francisco will probably be the difference between these two sides. That Taylor Heineke description is so perfect, because what happens is people who watch Red Zone or highlights and don't necessarily drill down into the games, and I'm not putting down those fans in any way, shape or form, but when you see those wow throws from Taylor Heineke, those moments where he puts the team on his back, he's down late in a game and he goes and he just makes one or two 30, 35 plus yard air yard throws that are just on a dime and jaw dropping, and you're stunned that he's pulled those off. And you think, wow, they've really got something in this guy. Maybe he is a long-term solution. Maybe he is somebody who you want to invest in. And then you watch him down to down, and you see the number of open misses and poor mistakes, and the number of times where he feels pressure that's not there versus the number of times he doesn't read the pressure as it's coming at him. It's back to that roller coaster feeling of a quarterback. And I think you're right. Brock Purdy is Mr. kind of steady, and he might not have that big moment in his locker that we know that we know that Taylor Heineke can come up with and has come up with. We've not had to see him do it yet. We've not really had to see him go and put the team on his back and go and win a game of football. We all know that Jimmy Garoppolo probably doesn't have that moment in his locker, certainly not anymore, and certainly that we've seen in recent years. So hopefully that still comes, but it's also why I don't want this game to be left tight. It's also why I don't want this game to be going into a fourth quarter with a single score and be worrying about it. I do think that the fundamentals for San Francisco on that side of the ball will make a difference. I always think Washington, like I said, play teams tough. They don't get blown out as a rule. They don't get absolutely beaten up on. They do slow teams down. They do slow the game down. They do run it well. And for all those reasons, while I'm picking a 49ers victory, I'm not I felt really good going into the Seahawks game, even though I knew all of the tertiary stuff that came with that game. This game, I feel less good about because of not the tertiary stuff, but because of the fundamentals of football.
Yeah, that's it. It was all about, like we mentioned it last week, the boogeyman in Seattle, but with a couple of quarters, after the George Kittle touchdown, the second touchdown, the boogeyman was essentially slayed. It was just some questionable calls, and Niners not putting them away in the second half. I mean, I'm not going to go reference that roughing call again. She'll get me on a rant.
I mean, to be fair, what restraint from the pair of us to not come on here and just start kicking and throwing stuff. Maybe the fact that we've waited 4 or 5 days is a really good thing, because I was astonished by it at the time.
I don't get it. I've seen it back on the tape, and you can see Bosa move to the side, which is what they say is meant to do. And Bosa was very kind of gracious after the fact. He said, "Oh, it was my fault. I didn't follow the rules. I made a mistake." I think he may have been just being diplomatic to save himself a fight there, because I think the way I've watched it a few times, and he did everything that you need to do to avoid that kind of body weight flag. He didn't really drive him into the ground, and then he moved his body to the side, so he wasn't getting the full impact of his whole body on Geno Smith. So he did everything he could to prevent Geno Smith getting injured, and still drew the flag. It baffles me, that one, and I would love for that rule, the bodyweight rule, to be looked at in the off season at the owners' meetings or the competition committee. But I fear it won't be. The argument for the Niners kind of making sure this isn't close and there isn't that fear factor in the fourth quarter is probably lies with Nick Bosa again, because if you saw on Sunday night I can't remember the left tackle for the Washington Commanders by name at this point. I don't have it with me, but the Kayvon Thibodeau absolutely feasted on him in that game.
Assuming it's the usual starting left tackle, Charles Leno.
Charles Leno, that's who I'm thinking of.
The former Bear, yeah.
The former Bear, who is a decent left tackle, but had a real nightmare against Kayvon Thibodeau. And Bosa could go against the right tackle, he can go against the left tackle, and he can move him around. And I hope for the Niners' sake, and fear for Washington, that it's going to be a kind of a repeat, because Bosa, while they hadn't have monstrous sack numbers over the last couple of weeks, has just been winning pass rushes at a ridiculous rate. He got the roughing the passer call, and he still had the other sack after that against Seattle, but he could have had a lot more. And Geno was a lot similar. It was very similar to Tom Brady in that game, in that he was getting the ball out very, very quickly. I think he was at 2.6 seconds this week, which was in the top 10 quickest. So he was just getting the ball out very quickly because Bosa was just mashing his left tackles, and I think that's the recipe for the Niners winning the game, is that you get a lead, you make Washington have to throw the ball, you take away the run, and then you watch Bosa and company work again against a line that's good at run blocking but has weaknesses in pass protection.
I do. You've talked me into the idea that Taylor Heineke, with the pressure that this front can bring, with the confusion that they can bring by flooding that area over the middle as well, like they did against Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, that does take away, as much as Terry McLaurin up as a deep threat, that takes away the Curtis Samuel factor, who they try to use in a, what I think we can now call a Deebo Samuel type role of moving him around the formation. I think to an extent it can take away Jahan Dotson as well. So, yeah, you've got me feeling more positive. You've done your job, Nicholas, and you've made me feel good going into Saturday evening as we bring you that game. Can't wait.
I'm an eternal optimist, and I difficult to find ways that you can't be optimistic about a team that's won 7 games in a row until they show me otherwise. So I'll continue to ride that train until proven wrong.
So we're both taking the 49ers, right?
Oh yeah. I think it'll be tighter than I think 7 points is about right for a line, but I think you're looking kind of like maybe like a 10-point Niners win. I think it will be a bit uneasy at times, but I think eventually they'll get a job done.
Lovely stuff. Right, before we let you go, let's head into the 49ers locker room. Larry Krueger has been in Santa Clara for us here on Tales from the Bay, speaking to the great and the good ahead of the Washington Commanders coming to Levi Stadium this Saturday.
We all want a better seed, but, at least as long as you got a chance to playoffs, that's all that matters. So more home games we can get, the better. But, all you need is a shot.
How important is playoff seeding to you guys? Like 2 or 3 seed? Thoughts?
I think it's pretty important. If you can jump a seed and get an extra home game in the playoffs, I think it'll be really beneficial.
I know defense got some eyes on Marcelino. They call him Muscle Man, so he's one I'd be watching out for, and maybe another Dre or Aziz. So he's one to watch out for.
Wow, linebacker factory.
Yeah, cool. They know how to make them.
Yeah, I couldn't name somebody off the top of their head. I mean, all these guys play really hard. They practice hard. They get really good looks. Maybe Q Knight. Q Knight's a good one. Yeah, he plays really hard.
UCLA, baby.
Yeah,
all right. Just play ball. I mean, it's a thing. They control possession of the clock a lot, and I think we're number 2, so we both like to have the ball. So it's just one of those things. You got to take advantage of the ops you get. So it's part of the game, but it's just football, just play.
Washington, they lead the league in time of possession. How do you guys go about sort of, combating that style of play?
We're just playing ball, man. We're not thinking about time possession while we're playing. We're just trying to score and win the game.
Well, it couldn't be more of a joy to be out here with a man who's starting to really show his impact on the field. We're excited about him coming into the season now, doing it for the 49ers. Rookie Jordan Mason joining us now on the show. Jordan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm out here getting to chat to you guys, going into a game day on Sunday, or Saturday, sorry. Keep saying Sunday. That's normal. How does it feel for you guys, knowing that you're playing on Christmas Eve and with everything coming up with the season as well?
I mean, it's great. It's going to be great to get a dub on Christmas Eve and then enjoy it the next day.
Have you got plans to enjoy the next day as well? You get to let loose a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I've seen it.
Absolutely love it. Jordan, talk to me a bit about the opportunities you've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks, a bit of an expanded role in the team, getting a bit more of a chance to really show the world what you're made of and what it's been like to actually get a chance to get out there and get the ball in your hands.
No, just like I was saying, just all we needed was an opportunity, a chance just to prove myself. And, that's just what's happening, and I'm just blessed to be in my situation and just thankful, man. Just thankful.
With winning the NFC West this past weekend, there's been a lot of speculation about the fact that you might even get more opportunities. 3 weeks left of this season, chance for some of the rookies, some of the guys on the outsides to rotate in and maybe get more snaps. Is that playing in your mind? Are you out there thinking, right, let's get going, let's show the world?
I'm always thinking I'm going to be the starter. I trained in the summer. That's how I trained, and that's how I'm still training my mind. I'm the starter when I come in. I'm the starter. I'm just the starter. That's how I work.
What have you seen of that Washington defense? Because they've got a stout defensive line. There's a lot of talent there. So are you already picking holes and seeing where you're going to be able to find those opportunities?
Oh no! I never pick holes. It's all wherever the hole is designed. That's where I'm gonna start first, and then I'm gonna just go one hole at a time. If that closes up, I go to another one.
It does feel like that 49ers offensive line must be a joy to run behind. Like, they open up opportunities for you.
I love it. When I tell you I love it, I absolutely love it.
Well, one of my favorite guys to talk to in recent years, going back to the Super Bowl 3 years ago, was Bobby Turner. Talk to us a little bit about his return to the team and the work he's done with you.
Hey, man, Bobby Turner, he's man, as soon as he came in, he fixed everything I was doing. I'm talking about everything. Bobby T's been in this offense for a long time. So for some time now. So he knows the ins and outs. So I'm very appreciative of Bobby Turner. Very.
And a little bit on Brock Purdy as well, because he's been the big story over here, having a guy go from being Mr. Irrelevant to making big plays week in, week out. What have you seen from him lining up alongside him in the backfield?
I mean, he's definitely relevant now. I mean, who don't see that? But yeah, man, I always see Brock Purdy. He knows the ins and outs, man. He stays here after he stays here. I've seen him. Like in the summer, I seen him, and we would be doing the extra, and so he's prepared for this moment.
What's it like for you preparing for games when you know that the postseason is already in the grasp? And yes, there are things to play for, seeding, etc. But knowing that you're approaching this game maybe in a slightly different way with January in mind a little bit.
Come on, man. You already know, man. It's just one game at a time, man. Don't worry about down the future. It's all about one game at a time.
I love that. I love that approach. I hope you can continue that approach going. And look, we really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us. And good luck for this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we keep that push towards at least the 2 seed. And then a big run in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you.
Hey, the man they know as Big Play Dre. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Will. How you doing?
Very well. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us. The last time actually you and I spoke in person was back in 2019 in Seattle, and you'd just made the play of a rookie career, like the first year going and making that play at the half-yard line. What was it like going back to Seattle
and claiming that NFC West title again, man?
Man, it's huge, man. To be able to play against a good team like that and be able to get that win, and for it the things that it could do just for the rest of the season, and for the playoffs, man, and just momentum that we're trying to keep rolling. And it was good to be able to get it done versus a good team. And now we got Washington this coming up week. We got to do it again.
How are you feeling a few years in now? How does it feel different getting to this point in the season? How are you feeling in your body? How are you feeling going into what is now going to be a postseason run?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Just remember my first couple years, especially that first year going into postseason, it was just draining. Everything about it was draining. But as you just get older, you realize how everything works and what you need to do to take care of your body to make sure you're good for the next game in the postseason. You just learn that as you go, and it's definitely a different feeling than it was rookie year, just because rookie year just feels exhausted. But now you've been through it, it, so it's just part of the process now.
Before we get into this season and looking forward, I've got to ask you, you made the headlines in the last couple of weeks. You intercept Tom Brady, and then you go up to him afterwards and you ask him to sign your game ball. Just talk to us a bit about that experience, what it was like for you to go and meet the man afterwards, and the kind of reaction that you got for that.
It was huge. I really don't like to talk about old games. My bad, but
no, that's good. It was a cool moment, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely talk about it, man. It was crazy, man. Just that whole week, man. I've been telling everybody I'm going to give me a ball, and I just knew how special it was to be able to get a ball by one of the greatest, if not the greatest, and just everything he's done for this league, and as well he's done to be able to get that ball. And wasn't sure about afterwards if I was going to ask him to sign it, but I just felt like it was the right time. You never know when it's a good time to do it, so I was like, hey man, he might not be here next year, so the worst thing he can do is tell me no. So I was happy I got it done. I'm happy I asked him, and at first he was kind of like, he would just kind of telling me I'm a good player and stuff, but you could tell he wasn't in the mood to sign a ball, so I wasn't going to ask him. And then we started talking and got a little comfortable, and then I was like, hey, man, you sign these balls? And he was like, yeah.
That's really cool, man. And, it feels like the last few weeks, just to expand on that for the defense in general, a lot of people talking about you being the best in the league, but adding takeaways to what you guys were already doing, or coming back to that again, taking the ball away from the opposition on top of everything else you guys have been doing on defense. It feels like almost that final piece to turn it into what should hopefully be a good deep playoff run.
No doubt, man. That's the goal. That's the vision, man. We just trying to get better. When we got the week, and we gotta in order for us to get to where we need to go. We need to take away the ball. We need to have the ball. So just to be able to give our offense, a chance as well, and they're doing great as well. But we know if we can give them the ball more times than not, then they're going to be able to score. So that's just our mindset as a defense, and yeah, man, we just trying to keep this thing rolling all the way to the Super Bowl, man. So yeah, hopefully I'll talk to you then.
Did you enjoy it, getting out there, flying around, hitting guys? Because we've seen some big hits from you this year. I think they're catching some attention. It looks like you guys are having fun.
Yeah, man, it's fun, man. It's always fun when you win. It always helps. But just all the guys on the team, man, we got some great guys, and everybody brings their own type of energy, and it's always fun just being around other guys that are just as energetic. That's going to bring the energy, and it just makes you want to just go even harder.
Promise you, it's just two more from me. Firstly, a lot of talk about the Pro Bowl this week. Are you feeling a little bit snubbed? That's the word they're using. And how does it feel to be playing alongside Fred Warner, who I think might never not go to a Pro Bowl until he retires?
Right. Now, it's definitely great playing against or playing with him, man. He's a smart guy. He knows the defense in and out, man. So whenever you can be on the field with a player like that, man, it's kind of like a cheat code or an extra step, man, because he just knows where the ball going, and we just got a great feel for each other. But no, I was snubbed for sure.
And I want to ask about DeMeco Ryans, just because I think coming into the year, a lot of people saw the talent on your defense and maybe didn't give DeMeco Ryans the praise he deserved for the way he coached you guys up. I think we watch you game to game now, the way that the game plan develops week in, week out. Just talk to us a bit about what DeMeco brings to your defense and the fact that he is now being linked with head coaching jobs, I think, because of the job he's doing this year.
Yeah, man, he's a great coach, man. Great coordinator, man. Played the game, so he understands the game. He know how to get players to play for him, play hard for him, and he understands the game, man. When you got somebody that's played the game and understands it, man, it just makes it easier on you. And then just him being a previous linebacker, he just gives you tips and insights that you may not have heard from your coach, or just stuff that he knows as a player, and as a coach, that things that you can be aware of. And I think that it just allows us as a defense, and especially our linebackers, just be able to play fast and and trust what we see.
Man, fingers, toes, everything else crossed that I'll be seeing you in Arizona in, well, just a few weeks' time, but let alone a couple of months' time. Hopefully we'll see you at the Super Bowl, and good luck for the next few weeks. Stay healthy, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully there, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. As always, Tales from the Bay here on here with Gridiron. As I say that, Nicholas McGee has just thrown on an absolutely sensational San Francisco 49ers Santa hat. Where on earth did you get that from, and why don't I already have one?
I believe this was a purchase from my first trip out to the Bay with my dad in 2013 to see Candlestick before it was unceremoniously knocked down. And I believe I took a lot of money and made sure I spent as much as I could on various different items of 49ers merchandise that only come out on a rotational basis.
Sensational. I am a huge fan of that. At this point, I'm not home now. I did bring out the Christmas jumper last week, but we'll get more ridiculous 49ers merch on the show in the not too distant, I promise you. Nicholas, excellent work as always. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the listeners and the viewers for joining us, to Larry and Ryan out in the Bay Area, to the brilliant Michael McQuaid who puts this whole thing together for us every week as well. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Hopefully your Christmas morning is a victory Christmas morning after a 49ers win on Saturday night. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. This has been Tales from the Bay from Gridiron.
49ers defensive lineman Eric Armstead, now in his 8th season with the Niners, is a Northern California native and a huge force on the D-line and in the community. For the 3rd consecutive season, Armstead is the 49ers nominee for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award. His community-minded commitment to education is highly notable. He founded the Armstead Academic Project in 2019 to help ensure students have access to academic programs, school supplies, scholarships, and a support system. His own education in high school in Sacramento and college at Oregon saw him excel in both the classroom and 2 sports, as basketball is another love. So is chess, where he's competed online in over 2,000 virtual chess matches as a way to unwind and refocus off the field.